I'm a manager of an escape room and I haven't been honest. Part 3. What drives the desire to solve puzzles, to pick a lock, to answer a riddle? For me, it has always been the rules. Let's face it, life is chaotic and messy, often devoid of logic altogether. Say, you walk across the same street every day for 2 months to your favourite coffee shop, the one right across the street from your job. That's 120 crossings, give or take depending on the month. And then, wham! That 121st time you get ploughed over by a 1973 station wagon driven by a drunk driver in the middle of the day. It makes no sense. Logic says that every single time you cross that street, you get coffee. Chaos says, fuck no. You get a sparsely attended funeral and a $6,000 box to be buried in. But the puzzle, in its most perfect form, gives the same result time and time again. Without fail, it follows the rules in which its existence was created. It is only when we introduce a variable to this simple equation that things go wrong. Sometimes, horribly, horribly wrong. I'm getting ahead of myself though, or am I backtracking well beyond the confines of this current situation? It's hard to be sure. I told you I lied, and I'm not the only one. First, I promised updates on the Carter family, Joseph, Annie, Oscar and June, since I never gave their names out of maintaining a level of privacy. Impossible now with the news stations involved. Are still quite missing. Gone like AOL's mailbox discs, like Friday nights at Blockbuster, like New Coke or Crystal Pepsi, the stuff of myths. Things the current generation shrugs off as an unreality because, looking back at them, they made no sense at all. Blips on the pop culture radar that are now nothing more than urban legends. Were it not for the overwhelming evidence of their existence, I'd say they weren't real at all. The police officer who has been feeding me updates, Brady, told me that they have another daughter. Maggie is 29 and lives in Phoenix, far away from this insane situation that I find myself in the middle of. He gave me her phone number, but I haven't worked up the courage needed to call it. Mostly because, well, I think this is all my fault. It was an offhanded comment on my tale that threw me for a loop and led to this confession. Hell, I should have known better. If a random faceless stranger on the internet could see it, of course the police will find out, especially after they search Rachel's apartment. So, here it is, the unadulterated truth. Rachel and I are seeing each other, or, more precisely, were seeing one another. It was brief, but it happened. I knew from the moment I hired her that there was a level of attraction there. It didn't take long for us to exchange numbers and start meeting up outside of work for coffee. Later, we met for other things as well. I'm not proud of it, and I knew I was jeopardising my year-long relationship with my boyfriend just by being in her presence. But it was intoxicating. That itch you just can't help but scratch. Like poison ivy. But it spreads, doesn't it? Until you can't stop scratching. Until your fingers betray your logical mind and act of their own accord. Being with Rachel was like that until the poison spread out of control. A week ago, I ended it. The guilt was simply too much to bear any longer. Devon would never understand, and I couldn't explain it, so it had to be finished. Rachel took it well enough, or so I believed. Made myself believe. It was easier than the alternative, but the truth is, I knew I caused her pain, I just didn't know quite how much. The rules, always the damnable rules. They're in place for a reason, to keep the order of the universe, and violating them has consequences, some known, others not so much. Brady told me, I didn't see it, didn't think to see it. That Oscar Carter was wearing a jacket sporting the same name as the college Rachel attends. See, they were friends, pretty close as I understand it. Close enough for her to violate the non-disclosure agreement that all employees of my escape room must sign upon hiring. I introduced a variable to the perfect design and this is the result. I'm sure the tapes will confirm this, that Rachel gave them the answers to escaping Inferno. What does it mean? Another violation of the rules, that's what. And why? Well, it was personal. Inferno was my baby, my unbeaten gift to the world. What better way to get back at me than to destroy something I loved in a way that I couldn't love her? Fuck, in a way that I also didn't even love Devon. Love is messy and illogical. The rooms, though, they were simple and rational, cerebral in their creation. Of the mind, not the heart. And Inferno was perfect, true poetry in motion. It had to be destroyed to hurt me. I've heard that Rachel is being held down at the station still. She might be incoherent, but I know now that it will all come out, and I'll have to live with whatever happens as a result. I'm just sorry that others had to end up paying my fare on the bus to hell, which, as it turns out, isn't paved with good intentions, but instead with the shattered code of order, the rules. I haven't been able to sleep since seeing Rachel in my room, if that makes things any better. It wasn't just the shock of seeing her twisted, malevolent form. There's also the auditory component. Whenever I close my eyes, I hear those huge thuds again, like giant steps approaching. I don't want to think about what it might be, so I'm stuck believing that it must be my conscious manifesting. Something is manifesting. That guilt is palpable. I spent the night poring over the electronic records of all the purchases made while designing and setting up the Inferno room. All the while keeping a wary eye on the corners of my room. Partly to keep my mind occupied, partly out of remorse, and mostly, I admit this to you freely, because there is another puzzle there. Like Rachel's hurt and Oscar's jacket, it was right in front of my eyes all this time, yet I couldn't see it. The connection to the shop, Alpine Oddities and Porn. I started out designing Inferno with a shopping list of sorts, a general rundown of items that I wanted included in the room. Some I acquired myself, either at stores, yard sales, or in the trash lining the streets every week. You wouldn't believe some of the things people throw out, honestly. While other pieces were purchased by the owner, on multiple trips to Alpine, the shop. In fact, as far as I can tell, she never shopped anywhere else for the room. This part of the story, I'm afraid, I don't have the answer to. Tomorrow, I hope to find out. I need to call her to find out what is going on at the business. I believe the police still have it locked down, though I'm not sure where else they could possibly look. Seems pretty obvious that the Carter family isn't there any longer. I also plan to make a trip to the store because some of these items are troubling. The old chest for one, the torture rack that we repurposed for another. A certain stone tablet engraved with a familiar Latin phrase. Those, along with about 15 other pieces, that just can't be a coincidence, can it? I'm probably grasping at straws here, trying to deflect some of the blame from myself. It's simpler than that though, I promise you. Someone once said that the unconscious mind writes poetry when left alone. The truth is that what an unoccupied mind really does is eat itself. Emptiness is ravenous, all-consuming. It has a mouth like the apparition of Rachel that appeared in my room, I'm sure. I must not fall into that void if there's any way that I can help the Carters, Rachel, and myself. If this were an escape room, I'd approach it in much the same way. Research, observe, decode, escape. There has to be a clue to this terrible reality, some way to bring everything back into order. I feel a tickle in the back of my mind, and only time will tell if that feeling is just another itch, or a plan. It grows late. The shadows are gathering once more, waiting with hungry mouths all around me. Sometimes they are black clouds, sometimes they wear perverted faces of those we care about. I'm going to try to make it through the night with all these guests keeping me company. The rules, the fucking rules, friend. Keep to them and live. Stray, and who knows where you may end up.